Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Evan McCauley, president of the club, and we are thrilled to have you joining us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel. Our club meets weekly at Laurel Lake for breakfast on Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. Come out and join us for a meeting. We'd love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact that we are having on the local community and world, please visit rotaryhudson.org. Enjoy the meeting today and be the inspiration.
Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I understand that it didn't go so smooth last week, so we'll try and keep it under control this week. It's nice. Oh, well, sorry. I'm all business. What else was I going to say? You must be doing the invocation today. Maybe. Well, that's not what it says on the schedule, but yes, you're doing the invocation this morning. No.
Yes, Ron, we couldn't survive without you last week. You can see how valued you were. Good old Laurel and Hardy, we messed it up. In case people that weren't here last week, I pretended to be Ron as Sergeant of Arms. So let us bow our heads and we'll do a quick prayer. Lord God, thank you for this time with all these Rotarians, and let them travel safely about their day, Lord. And we pray especially for Craig and David that things that come from their mouth will be constructive and beneficial for all people in the audience and in this community, Lord God. And thank you for this food on this day. In your great and powerful name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rich. And to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, Bill Benoit.
I'm going to scooch it over just a little bit.
There we go. Oh, and turn the eagle around, too.
Oh, hey, look at that. That's right. Let's do this the right way. Not playing around. All right. We'll start with the pledge. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Test of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it true? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. We have a special treat this morning to lead us in song, Mason Mahalik. And the nice thing is, we started in a note that most of us can sing. To introduce our guest, Chris Barker.
Thank you, Mason. Okay, well, I would like to introduce the guests that are here with us today. If they could please rise when I call their name so we can give them a nice warm Rotary welcome. We have Kevin Carey, guest of Doug McDowell. Morning. And we have Mike Juppé, guest of Marilyn Orr. Thank you for joining us again. We have Lisa Radigan. Thank you. We have my friends back there, my Destination Hudson friends, Ted Olson, Liz Murphy, and Chris Stroke. Thank you so much for joining us. We have Neil Thackerberry. Thank you, Neil. We have Debbie Basil, Dave's wonderful wife. Thanks for joining us, Deb. We have Bill McClure. It's his third meeting. He's a guest of Bob Cramp, and he's going to be a Rotarian here in the not-too-distant future. Thank you so much. We have former Mayor Bill Curran, guest of Dan Williams. Thank you so much for joining us. And we have Dave and Renee Telling. And thank you once again for joining us. I hope you enjoyed today's meeting.
Before I ask Tom to come up, I just want to explain something. This banner with all the flags on it are one of about 7 or 8 banners that we have like that. So this one is here now. We'll switch them out occasionally so you can see all the places that Rotarians from this club have visited worldwide. And anytime you go to visit another Rotary club, you should take a banner with you. We have a stock of banners back in the closet, and you take it and just let the Rotary Club that you're visiting know that you'd like to do a flag exchange, and they'll invite you up, take your flag, give you a flag, and so that's why it's here. That's where they came from. So just a little explanation. And now our president, Tom Tobin.
And Ron didn't explain, his wife Sue actually she didn't do these ones? Okay, all right. These ones, okay. There we go. All right, let's see. Good morning, Rotarians and guests. So many guests again. It's so wonderful to see so many guests. George, could we have politics a theme every month? I think this is really good for the club. This is really great. All right. Hey, I just have a few items this morning. I'm going to ask Ed Sogan to come on up first. He's got a few. Oh, Ed. Oh, there he is. Yep. Okay, good. Ed, could you share a few thoughts for us about Santa on the Green and sports?
Santa on the Green is coming up on December 7th. We have 3 different shifts. We also have a setup and tear down. The sheet will be passed around next week. The shifts last for 2 hours. It's a great time. We've got hot chocolate and candy canes for the kids. We try to see 20 families per hour, and that gives them 2 to 3 minutes, family photos. We attempt to do it at the gazebo if the weather permits. Unfortunately, last year we had to cancel, and unfortunately there was some yahoo that turned on the fire alarm at Destination Hudson. We're still trying to find out who that person was, as they were looking for a light switch, but they will be severely punished. Again, this will be passed around next week. Over the weekend, we had a lot of competition for our high school sports, field hockey, boys soccer, cross country, football, and all the teams, again, did extremely well during the season. As you get to this level, again, you're talking about a few teams left in the state of Ohio, and we were very competitive. Unfortunately, we came in second a few times with that, but the boys and girls cross-country team are headed down to the States, and our football team has their last game against Twinsburg on Friday night. They beat our rival Stowe handily last Friday, and looking for the playoffs in regards to that particular program. So we're extremely proud of all the kids and all of our community members that follow our team. So thank you, and look forward to those kids running in Columbus, and also our final football game at Twinsburg. Right, Pat? Yeah. 2 more games, yeah. Final regular season game. All right.
And then playoffs.
Yes.
Yeah. And you know, just, as Ed said, we beat not just our rivals, but our arch rivals, the Stowe Bulldogs, on Friday night, convincingly, which was away, too, which was great. And our fans turned out in large numbers. As a matter of fact, I think toward the end of the game, there were many more of us than there were of the Stowe fans. So All right, may I ask Mimi Becker to come on up and update us on some work she's been doing with League of Women Voters and their climate change series.
Before I talk about that, I just want to be sure that you have a big reminder sign for November the 5th to go and vote. Just go vote. That's my league hat, and the other is that most of you know that the League of Women Voters is sponsoring a series of workshops on preparing for climate change in Hudson and surrounding communities. And the second of those workshops will be held on November the 7th, Thursday night here, beginning at 7 o'clock. You're all invited, whether you came to the first one or not, but I believe that the reports from the working groups at the first workshop are out. And this one is going to focus on various tools and strategies that communities and individuals can employ to better both adapt to the change and to prevent the rate of change from continuing to be out of hand. And there will be a climatologist from Kent State. The woman who is coordinating the it's a goal for being 100% off fossil fuels within the next 25 to 50 years. She's coordinating that goal statewide, but she's also for the city of Cleveland, and we'll have a councilman from the city of Lakewood, which has already put their plan into work, and they are partway there as a city. So it should be interesting, but we'll be talking about other tools that people can obtain, and there will be a workshop session for all of the participants to sort of fold that into the results of their first workshop and say what are some things that either they're doing or we're thinking about, because eventually you may remember that in April, there will be an entire session dedicated to developing recommendations for the city of Hudson. And we're hoping that if the quality of participation is as good as it was at the first one, we'll be able to continue that discussion. So you're all invited. Just show up, and we'll put you to work.
Thanks, Mimi. And that's November 7th. November 7th here at Laurel Lake in the community room for the next aspect of the climate change program. And thank you for doing that. By the way, James and I joined League of Women Voters recently, and as they said, it's not just for women anymore, guys. So it's a great organization, and I would urge you to consider it as well. All right, just one other thing here. I was going to mention that our own Marilyn Orr and Richard Nibiola attended a recent tri-district membership summit last, I think, Saturday, and had a chance to share some ideas with a lot of other Rotary clubs, and we'll benefit from that, I'm sure, going forward. So we'll hear more about that, I assume, at some future program. All right, I think that's it for what we have to say now. So if I may ask George Snyder to come on up and put our program in start.
I've been doing this for 5 weeks now. I feel like I'm running for office. Write me in. Yeah. Good morning, Rotarians. Also, welcome to our guests here in the room, and to all of those who are watching us either on Hudson Community Television or on our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel. For all 5 Wednesdays this month, we have featured candidates running for local election, beginning with the city council races for all 4 wards, and concluding this week with the race for mayor. All of these races are contested, and in Wards 1 and 3, the incumbent chose not to run again. Thus, no matter what the outcome, the face of local government will change and perhaps its direction as well. Our format for this morning will be 5-minute presentations from the two candidates here at the podium, followed by an open question and answer session with the candidates seated in the chairs there. They will have 90 seconds to respond to your questions. Fellow Rotarian Chris Barker, who's seated right in the front there, will act as timekeeper. She will give warnings when 60 seconds and 30 seconds are left and when time is up. I will act as moderator, and I request audience members to be respectful to both candidates. Our first speaker today is the incumbent, Mayor David Basel. Dave earned a BS degree with distinction from Purdue University and was nominated for a Rhodes Scholarship at Oxford University. He then received his JD degree from Case Western University School of Law, where he met his wife, Deborah, who is a commercial real estate attorney and is also with us today. Over a 40-year legal career, Dave worked in the prosecutor's office and in private practice before serving as a senior attorney for both Chase Manhattan and Key Bank. During that time, he was a contributing author to the American Bar Association publication on truth in lending. He retired from Key this past summer. The Basels settled in Hudson 25 years ago and sent 2 sons through Hudson City schools. Civic involvement includes the Rotary Club of Hudson, where Dave is a past president, the Hudson United Methodist Church, the Boy Scouts, and advisory roles with Hudson Community Foundation and the Baldwin Bus Foundation. In local government, he first was appointed to the city's planning commission, later serving as its chair. He then was elected to city council, where he served for 10.5 years, including 5 years as president. He was elected mayor in 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming David Basel.
Thank you, George, and good morning to all of my fellow Rotarians and our guests. I'd like to thank the Rotary Club, as always, for making this session possible, and I'd also like to thank everyone who was with us for spending time early on a Wednesday morning, and also thank all who may watch later as this event is televised for the time you spend watching. During my professional career, I have had to meet expenses of a small practice, so I know firsthand what our small businesses face each day as they try to keep their doors open. I have been engaged in large and complex issues and matters with large organizations involving numbers that run to 8 figures and more. So I know firsthand how to navigate those kinds of waters. I have had to assess and advise not just on legal risk, but also on compliance, operational, financial, and reputational risk in my professional life. Although that training and background and experience is extremely valuable in my role as mayor, the most critical element in successfully serving as the mayor of this community is a deep, abiding, and long-standing commitment to and involvement in Hudson, in all facets of the life of this community. For the mayor in Hudson does not control or direct staff, does not prepare or vote on a budget, cannot sign a check, and does not have the authority to spend 10 cents. So the mayor is the representative of this community inside and outside Hudson, and importantly sets the tone for our public discourse, our public conversation. George described some of my civic involvement in his introduction. Those avenues, however, are only the tip of the iceberg. They opened countless other opportunities for contact and understanding of the immense talents and passions of our citizens. The fabric of our community is incredible, but it requires the time and attention of sustained commitment and involvement to understand how the threads of that fabric connect and how they support and enrich each other. Not only each other, but the community as a whole, and even the region in which we exist. For Hudson is not a bubble. We exist in the environment of our region. During my civic service, I have been privileged to help lead efforts critical to our community and its future. First in Maine, our world-class library, the reconstruction of failing streets in the former township in 1/3 the time it might have otherwise taken, and investment of millions of dollars in critical stormwater improvements that have made Hudson the model for communities in our area and beyond. My involvement in Hudson is also marked by a commitment to engage fellow citizens. I was the first member of council ever to hold an open forum and to do so on a regular basis every quarter for 8 years. Those meetings helped inform my decisions and created a sense in our citizens that someone would listen to them, and I have listened over my entire career. Even though council increased the amount spent for road work from a little over $1.6 million in 2016 to almost $2.4 million and more in 2018 and 19, the pace of progress on infrastructure needs to be maintained. We have among the most advanced and stringent stormwater standards, as I said, in Northeast Ohio. Investments in economic development have yielded an increase in our city's income in the wage tax of roughly 29% over the past 3 years. That is not an accident. That requires sustained attention and hard work. And this is very, very important for the future of our community. In order to strengthen that foundation, the foundation for our future, I will continue to urge council to accelerate attention on our infrastructure, streets, and continued work on our stormwater, to accelerate progress on the plan to establish trails and connections throughout our community, and to retain civility in our dialogue. My Facebook page is Re-elect Mayor Dave Basel, and my website is baselforhudson.com. I respectfully ask for your vote to continue our tradition of civility and progress as a community.
Thank you, David. Our second speaker is Craig Schubert, a graduate of Iowa State University with a degree in journalism and mass communications. He began his adult life in broadcast and print media, serving as a reporter, photographer, producer, anchor, and bureau chief. He later transitioned to consumer goods marketing for a business unit of Coca-Cola, which led to a second career in global business development. Craig has established foreign business units and open marketing channels for Ohio-made goods in countries around the world and in outer space. He currently works for a division of AGCO Corporation, the maker of Massey Ferguson farm tractors. In the community, Craig serves on the Hudson Board of Tax Review, heads the hospitality ministry of St. Mary Catholic Church, and is chairman emeritus of the Greater Cleveland Eagle Scout Association Board. He and his wife, Sherry Moyer, are 20-year Hudson residents and are, quote, the parents of 2 golden retrievers. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Craig Schubert.
Thank you, George, and good morning, everyone. I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to the Rotary Club of Hudson and the good folks of Laurel Lake for hosting today's event. This coming Tuesday, November 5th, voters will once again decide the question of who leads our city. Whom will you trust to govern in a thoughtful, judicious manner and to safeguard our city's treasury through sound fiscal policy, accountability, and transparency? We have watched our mayor quietly sit on the sidelines time and time again, while 5 of our 7 council members have ignored the will of the people, moving forward with their pet projects, while our city manager is busy handing out taxpayer-funded massages and car washes to her favorite employees. You know the mess we're in. 25 years after the merger, we have a pile of broken promises. Many streets do not have lights, fire hydrants, sidewalks, curbs, and gutters. Even city water doesn't reach many homes. Railroad underpasses have yet to be upgraded, a senior citizen center has yet to be built, or a community swimming pool for children. Our roads are crumbling, our infrastructure is decaying, and our traffic remains a mess while city leaders focus on luxuries and amenities. In contrast to my opponent, I will bring to the office of mayor an extensive set of business skills and experience gained over the past 45 years while serving in key leadership roles, whether as chairman of the board of the Eagle Scout Association or as the executive in charge of foreign operating units in Argentina and Chile. I have hands-on experience in finance, human resources, operations, transportation, and communications, all of which are major functions within our city. I have overseen budgets far in excess of our city's $94 million income and expense statement and have been held accountable for profit and loss. My ability to bring people together, to collaborate, and to commercialize solutions, as I have done in 65 countries, will prove extremely valuable as Hudson's new mayor. As I mentioned, I'm a graduate of Iowa State University with a degree in journalism and mass communication. I have covered government and politics from City Hall to County Council, from the State House to the White House and to the halls of Congress, where I served as a communications assistant to U.S. Senator Charles Grassley of Iowa, the current president pro tempore of the U.S. Senate and chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. Because of this experience, there are some in Hudson who do not want to see me become the mayor because they fear I may expose past and present misdeeds. The question is there something to hide? I firmly believe in your First Amendment right and the right to know what's happening in your city, always, especially when it comes to taxpayer money. That's why my campaign is focused on fiscal responsibility, accountability, and transparency. I believe we need to get back to the basics with common sense governance. My wife Sherry and I are 20-year residents of Hudson. We are active in our church, and we care very deeply for our community, and will strive to bring out the best in all that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. I will now invite both candidates to come up and sit down. And the mic, just make sure the mic is on. The little switch, if it's red, the mic is on. I would like to begin the Q&A this morning by addressing a question to both candidates. For many, many years, Hudson has had a city manager form of government supported by a nonpartisan city council. This election, the Summit County Republican Party has proposed a slate of candidates for all 4 wards and for mayor. My question is this: do you support the current form of government, and do you believe that party slates are consistent with that form of government?
Would you like to start? Okay, right. I'll be happy to take the question. The current form of government is one that we've had for 60 years. The question is it the form of government we need going forward? That's not a question I can answer, and I don't believe the mayor can either. That is a question for the voters. In terms of the Hudson Republican Club, it's interesting that while there's been a lot said about the Hudson Republican Club and the letter that went out, very little has been said about the Hudson Democratic Organization. And there is such an organization. You can find it on Facebook. There has been a lot of commentary. And while D's and R's may not appear next to the name of the candidates on the ballot, it does not prevent anyone from expressing their First Amendment right for party affiliation or their viewpoints, and certainly everyone is entitled to do that. So the Hudson Republican Club sent a letter, and they're welcome to do that like any other organization. There's no harm in that, and there's nothing sinister about it. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, George. Our charter provides that our elections shall be nonpartisan. That is both the letter and the spirit of our charter, letter and spirit. I have taken the oath of office at least 6 times in this community, each time pledging to uphold our charter and our codified ordinances. That applies to letter and spirit. It is my firm and unwavering belief and conviction that to seek and to accept a partisan political endorsement is diametrically opposed to that oath and to our charter. The Hudson Republican Club sent a questionnaire to candidates. I received it. I did not respond, and I explained why I did not respond for the reasons I just stated. I assume that in order to procure the endorsement of that organization, a candidate had to respond, seeking the endorsement. Certainly the organization is entitled to express its opinion, but again, it is my belief, firm and unwavering, that to seek and accept and tout such an endorsement is exactly contrary to the spirit of our charter. Our form of government ultimately will be decided by the citizens. Council will appoint a charter review commission, and that commission will bring forward suggestions. I support the current form of government that we have. I think it has served our community exceedingly well, but ultimately it will be the decision of the citizens.
Okay. We have several mics out there. We'd ask you to use the mic. We have questions. Bill Curran, you have a question? Is that mic on?
Thank you very much, George. I appreciate it. My question is directed at candidate Schubert, but I do welcome Mayor Basil to chime in if he wishes. This morning, as I was checking my computer and emails, I received another push in my Instagram account from Accountability Project Ohio. And I've received a number of these, and because of that, I've done some research to find out who these folks are, why they're pushing these endorsements to me. And candidate Schubert, you are endorsed by Accountability Project in Ohio. So I have a whole list of information, but just basically, the Accountability Project in Ohio is paid for by the Accountability Project Institute. You can Google it. It came up as being founded by and part of a group run by Steve Bannon, the founder of Breitbart. My question is, candidate Schubert, there was a questionnaire that needed to be filled out to evidently to receive this endorsement. That was received. And what is your explanation to us of the continued partisan efforts to affect our local nonpartisan election? Thank you, sir.
The Accountability Project is, or at least the Accountability Project of Ohio, is separate from other organizations that the former mayor just referenced. A survey was sent, like the one from the Hudson Republican Club, like the one from the Chamber of Commerce, like the one you received from Right to Life, or Buckeye Firearms, or any other organization wishing to endorse. Candidates are typically asked to fill these out. They came from Gatehouse Media as well. They all take a lot of time, a lot of thought to put them together. Usually the response is a mailer. It may be an advertisement in the newspaper. You really don't give much thought to it, and you move on, okay? I had no knowledge that they would plan this push of Facebook ads or radio commercials, but certainly there's nothing wrong with being held accountable, especially fiscal accountability and transparency in our government. This is a government watchdog organization. Watchdogs don't bark unless they see something at which they need to bark and bring attention. And that's what this organization is doing. It's asking you to sit up, take notice that something's going on. And you should be the informed voter.
Next question.
Excuse me, can I?
No, yeah, certainly.
Thank you, George. I did not receive a question from the Accountability Project Ohio, but had I received one, my response would have been exactly the same as that I gave to the Hudson Republican Club. It is an outside organization that, in my opinion, has no business seeking to influence our citizens in a local election. The Accountability Project of Ohio, I tried to find out who's behind it, where their money comes from. It is as dark a hole as I have seen. So when you talk about transparency, when you want to find out who is behind an organization operationally and financially, that's not possible with the Accountability Project Ohio. Mr. Schubert has said that he had no knowledge what they would do with the questionnaire that he obviously returned. It is not a questionnaire like Gatehouse Media, which simply had questionnaires for all of the candidates, and they published answers in various media outlets. The fact of the matter is that Mr. Schubert is touting the endorsement of the Accountability Project on his Facebook page and website as a great, great thing. Again, I think that is inappropriate in a purely local election that should be decided by our voters, not an outside organization.
We have a room full of people. I assume we have a room full of questions.
I have a follow-up question to that. I would like to know from Mr. Schubert whether your campaign has received any financial support from the Government Accountability Institute, either the Ohio Project or the national organization.
No, it is not.
Neil, do you have a question?
Yes. In your presentation, Mr. Schubert, you said, is there something to hide? It strikes me that that's the kind of polemical statement that invites questions and invites an animosity into our government system that is simply not justified. It's the kind of polemical statement that is just not fair and isn't relevant. It adds no information. It simply raises emotions in a way that I don't think is constructive.
It certainly raised the question, since you just raised it. And I can tell you that our current city solicitor is engaged in a cover-up regarding a rightfully requested public records request pertaining to the emails used by an incumbent city council person for political purposes. The city solicitor has refused to comply fully with that request.
That is a pretty serious accusation against our city solicitor. I am not aware of any cover-up. I'm not aware of the public records request that goes in through our communications director and is handled by our city solicitor. Again, I don't direct the city solicitor, but in my experience, Mr. Vizana is entirely above board, and quite frankly, that would be entirely out of character for everything that I have seen him do and say during his tenure.
Any questions from over this side of the room? Yes, yes, sir.
So, looking around Hudson, it's obviously very monochromatic, but is there anything that you would pose to be done to not only be accepting to different races, but also different sexualities or different gender orientations? What would you say to be done about that?
That is a very good question. It is also a very difficult question. That calls into question not only our community, but our entire society, actually. And there are things that I think we can do. And I think one of those is to increase diversity in our city staff. We have made some progress in that regard. Can we do more? Absolutely. But I think that is a first step, and I think it is very important, especially for our young people, to see diversity, other races, other cultures, present in positions of importance authority and visibility in our community. And again, I think the city has taken some good steps in that direction, but certainly we can do more.
As mentioned earlier, I've traveled extensively around the globe on a number of occasions, many of the same countries, multiple times. I have met wonderful people of all races and nationalities. I do not treat anyone differently because of who they are. I think in Hudson we have a wonderful community, and I will tell you from this experience of running for office, the number of wonderful people that I have met, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, whether you're rich or you're poor. These are lessons I learned on Capitol Hill. The only question one ever asks is, how may I help you? I don't treat anyone differently than the next person, young or old, black or white, Christian or Jewish. I treat everyone the same, and we should do likewise in Hudson. Thank you.
Phil, do you have a question?
I have one more question to ask Mr. Schubert. You were asked the question whether you received money from an organization. I'm going to follow up by saying, have you received money from any partisan organization, particularly the Republican Party?
No, I have not.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Although that question wasn't directed to me, I will answer it as well. And my response is that I have not, that every contribution to my campaign and every amount expended in support of my campaign, every effort expended in support of my campaign has come from a citizen of our community whom I either know or have developed an acquaintance with over the course of the past few months, or from my own pocket. That is the extent of my financial support and other support. And in response to the further response to the question on diversity, I grew up in a town that was very much like Hudson when I grew up. There were very, very few minorities, but by way of personal experience, one of my best friends in 3rd grade was the son of immigrants from Mexico. And I will never forget going to his birthday party and seeing other classmates there as well. That is an important and a life-changing lesson.
Jay Yard?
I'm a Pittsburgher that chose to retire in Hudson. My friends think I'm crazy, but I'm very interested, Mr. Schubert, in your comment about not being able to justify a senior center, or at least not getting it moving. How would you justify a senior center financially in this town?
I am not opposed to a senior center. In fact, I think it would be a great asset to have. I've talked with a number of folks. They would like to see more than just a senior citizen center. They'd like to see a park that is specifically designed, perhaps homes that surround that park, that include that center. You know, certainly an area for those who are still active and independent and capable of enjoying life here in Hudson. I think in terms of financially, I'm not crazy about user fees. You know, I think this is what we have taxes for, to bring about the benefits and the enhancements, you know, that make our city great. I lived in a community growing up where we had what they called a recreation center, not one with a gymnasium and a swimming pool, but it was a community facility for the arts, whether it was theater, it was painting, it was music, you know, it was other kinds of programs for children, for seniors, just an absolutely great, great facility. Today it has become partially an art museum because of the number of things that have been produced over the last 50 years that have received such recognition. So a senior citizen center and a facility here in our community, I believe would bring about further beauty, value, and would enhance the quality of life.
I'll take the opportunity to address that question as well. A little over a year ago, or about a year ago, I suggested to Hudson City Council that it form a senior citizen advisory committee to address issues of concern and importance to our older citizens. Council at that time said we've got enough on our plate. I was convinced that it was important enough and necessary enough that I said, okay, that is fine, I will create the Mayor's Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, and it has now been in existence for a little over a year. It's sent out a survey, it has held a couple of events, and it is moving forward on issues, addressing issues of importance and concerns to our older citizens. A senior center is among them. But that will take some time to assess exactly what that kind of facility will look like and exactly what needs we are trying to satisfy. That is the purpose of the survey, because it makes little sense to build something that the population you are trying to serve doesn't want or need, or that doesn't fully satisfy their needs and wants. So again, it is a process, and that is a process that I have begun, like many other issues that I have brought to the attention of council and requested that they take action upon. Sometimes council agrees and they take action, sometimes they don't.
Gentlemen, thank you. I realize that politics by its nature is adversarial, but there seems to be a difference between an adversarial dispute and an adversarial spirit. Especially in national politics, it has become almost vicious. My question to you, I guess, is if you're involved in an adversarial campaign for mayor, how do you turn then and turn off that adversarial spirit when you become the mayor? I mean, how do you move from that to civility? So, Mr. Schubert, just my question really, I guess, to you first is that I heard you today disparage good names of people that you will then have to turn around and work with. How does that work for you?
You may view it as an adversarial campaign. I don't view it that way. I view it as telling the truth. Everything that I've stated is factual. As I said earlier, I'm a journalist by education and previous professional practice. From the Walter Cronkite era, every story required two sources. It has to be documented. It has to be verifiable. Ethics ruled the newsroom, and a libel suit was something to fear. That isn't the case this day. We have 24/7 talk, radio, and television. People say what they want to say. They can hide behind computer screens and type whatever they want on Facebook. Okay? When I give you the information, I'll give it to you factually. As I said, this campaign is about fiscal responsibility. It's about accountability. It's about transparency, making sure that things are open and free, that you understand exactly what goes on inside our city. Okay? I harbor no ill will towards the city manager, the city solicitor, or anyone else in our city. But I do want to make sure that we're moving in a thoughtful, judicious way. We have been the beneficiaries of over the last 220 years of a great city. And the decisions that we make going forward should not be about you and me. It should be about your children and your grandchildren and the generations that follow. What kind of city are we going to leave them? You know, we're all getting progressively older. We may not be here in the next 20 or 30 years.
Time's up.
But whatever we build will be here 50 to 100 years from now.
Thank you for the question. I think the first way to deal with the concern that you expressed is not to create it in the first place. Mr. Schubert leveled an accusation against one or more people. That does not make it a fact. It's an accusation. There's a difference. You avoid making those kinds of accusations, and you let the true facts come out and speak for themselves. In 2007, there was a race for city council. It was contested, not in the degree to which we are witnessing in this election, but it was contested, and it was spirited. And at the end of the day, when I prevailed in that election and defeated an incumbent, the other members of City Council and I were able to work together because I did not level personal accusations against my opponent. I did not question his integrity. I questioned some of his decisions. I questioned some of the things that he had said and done, but I did not question his integrity as a person.
I have time for one last question, if there's one out there. Yes, James.
So I have a little bit of interest in the schools. Sort of two-part question to this. One is, so we've, both of you have been in the community for a long time. Schools have gone to the community for various levies, and just wondering what your past opinion of levies has been. Did you support them? Did you oppose them? Were you just neutral on those? And in terms of, do you feel that the schools are spending wisely or not? And then, because of all the discussion of politics, just as an aside, we find that people for or against various things related to the schools does not seem to be related to their political party, actually. But the other question is, for the schools at least, and I'm sure for the city, there are times when we're at odds with policies in the State House, and so we will obviously argue to support, the city of Hudson. With deep ties to a political party, would you be willing to go counter to that party for Hudson, or would you be more of an advocate for that party? So really two parts, your opinion on our levies and what we've gone out with, and then secondly, where would you stand if there was a conflict between the schools or the city and State House?
Thank you for the question. Our family has a very long personal history and experience with our city schools. I will tell you firsthand that they are the best. Our sons were extraordinarily well prepared for college and, more importantly, for life beyond college because of the foundation created in our city schools. So I can tell you that, yes, I think our city schools spend the money that our citizens allocate to them very wisely. I have supported our city schools consistently, both in terms of their operations and their requests for funding. I have supported, I think, every levy, as has my wife, and we have done so publicly. We have not hidden behind anything. As far as positions relative to political parties in the State House, that's not an issue for me because I approach this office in a completely nonpartisan manner. I have been requested by members of both parties to endorse their candidacy over the years. I have politely and firmly declined and explained to them that, in my opinion, it is inappropriate for me as a current office holder in Hudson, a nonpartisan community, to do so, and they have accepted that with explanation, with great appreciation, and have said that they respect my position in doing so.
The issue of schools and children. My wife and I have not been blessed with children as we married later in life. Children are very important to me. In my family, we've had 5 children born to my brothers. 4 of them are deceased. I've given a lot of my time over the course of my life through the Boy Scouts of America. Pat Shear, who sits back here at the table, has known me for over 30 years. Through scouting, we first met in Wisconsin. You heard I was the chairman of the Eagle Scout Association. I believe in children. I believe in our future. I support our schools. When the school district came forward with its master plan, It was like it was a work of art. It was very well done, very well executed, thought out. Yeah, I think it's great for the city of Hudson. We've got fantastic teachers here. I've had the pleasure of being in the schools, help teach classes, and I will continue to support the schools in all that we do.
All right, my thanks this morning to both David Basil and to Craig Schubert, to our timekeeper, Chris Parker, and to you, our fantastic audience. The election, November 5, is now 6 days away. Please join me in casting your ballots and making your voices heard. Thank you again.
Thank you, candidates. Thank you, guests. And thank you again, George and the Speakers Committee for putting on a wonderful political forum program for the month of October. I think it was very good. All right, we have Rotabuck. Let's see. This week for $15 is the daily payout. Could I ask Mr. Schubert, would you pick a ticket?
You have one friend.
You'll have to pick the right ticket, right?
You will not be held responsible. All right, the number is 2280. Come on, who's feeling lucky today? Of course it's Stu. All right. Stu, I'll come to you. All right. By the pay, what was the payout this week? Can you see there, Stu? No, for the jackpot. I didn't even mention.
I think it's around $450.
About $450. So it's time, you know, guys, think about participating next week. All right. The quote of the week, which I think is somewhat appropriate given our candidates today, comes from Lyndon Baines Johnson. When the burdens of the presidency seem unusually heavy, I always remind myself it could be worse. I could be mayor. Okay? All right. All right, as we leave the meeting this morning, let's all go out there and show the world that we're proud to be Rotarians. If there's no other thoughts or comments, I declare this meeting adjourned.